Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go. It is another great day in the Grit and Gravitas podcast studio. And Annie Carnathan, I say it every time, I'm going to say it again. We have a phenomenal, inspirational guest with us today. It's a remote guest. I really wish we were in Nashville recording, and that's on our bucket list. We have Suzanne Mayernick out of Nashville, Tennessee, and our listeners know we really have a soft spot for Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, we do, and honestly, I already feel hugged from Suzanne, even though she's video, and we're like touchy-feely people, not tech people, but her smile and her just her spirit, right? Not to steal her word, is personification through that video. So thank you, Suzanne, and for being here, and thanks for the time.
And Suzanne, you are, first of all, a mother of 8, so we probably should learn survivor stories. That's what we should talk about first, I think. How do you look so awesome and so charming, and you're navigating life with 8 children? That's awesome. And you really, what we're going to dig down deep a little bit is your journey in adopting your daughter, and from that passion, growing a heart the size of Texas to start Love One International, and we'll dig deep with that. But welcome to Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
So we, our headquarters, we're broadcasting right outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the capital city. So give our listeners just a little backstory on you and your adoption journey and where that led you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate just the time to be able to share what God has done in our life. I am originally from Mississippi. But I've lived in Middle Tennessee most of my life, and I married Mike Mayernick, who is from Nashville. There's not a whole lot of people left like him here. There's a lot of people now that are moving, but we've been married almost 30 years, and we had 4 biological children, and really, when I went from 3 to 4, it was a significant jump in just feeling overwhelmed with as a mom, just laundry, right, meals, snacks, nap times, getting son to school, keeping the smaller ones at home, and really felt defeated on a daily basis. And so when we started feeling like that the Lord was calling us to adoption, I kind of went in with my heels dug in because I felt like I was not capable of being the mom that I needed to be to them. And it was one of those things where we really just felt like the Lord was very clearly calling us to adopt an African-American little boy from America. When we started doing our research, we found out that at the time, 16 years ago, little black boys were the last babies to be adopted in America, and which then made sense why the Lord would lay that on our hearts. And so started the process and just said, you know what, we're going to, it feels like the door is opened. And so we're going to take a walk and step inside it. And if he closes the door, then we'll know that we did not hear the calling correctly. Or if he continues to open it, then we'll keep walking. And we finished our paperwork. And 3 months later, we had Joshua, our first son, in our arms. And it was at that point that I think I just completely freed up from feeling like I had to have it all together as a mom. And also the love the one in front of me started resonating just in my kitchen even. Okay, well, I have this one that's crying because she needs a nap. I'm going to put her down for a nap. And then this one wants some juice, so I need to focus on this one and get him some juice. And So I started just going, okay, I'm going to take care of the one that is in front of me at this moment. And then I realized that once I did that, rather than looking at the big picture of all 5 children and getting overwhelmed and somewhat paralyzed by it, that it seemed a lot simpler. And I just freed up from all the things that the world was telling me I needed to have in place or to get done as a mom, to be a good mom, and started relying on the Lord to give me what I needed each morning and every day. And life became simpler. 2 years later, we started the process again. 3 months later, we had Caleb in our arms. He was born in Utah. Along that time, we also started just traveling as a family and doing mission work, serving in other countries where there was a need. And in that process of traveling to Uganda, we met our little girl, Josie Love. Her name was Josephine in her orphanage. And I had always said that if we ever adopted again, which I said, oh no, we're done at 6, we're good. We're content. Life's full. And we met her, and her name was Josephine, and felt like that the Lord continued just to open up the door for the process for her. And once again, He did. Do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to give like the adoption stories first and then?
Yes, but let me jump in here. This is almost ironic. So you started this, like adopting your son. Is that 16 years ago? You started that process, and your mental conversations were, be present and love or care for or be intentional about the child in front of you. And it's almost, the work-life balance and feeling overwhelmed. And I'm thinking now, throw in a pandemic in 16 years, and that message is truer even today. Like that resonates with anyone working in the home, working out of the home. And you felt that way with 4 children, but then the doors just kept opening. So, I love, that's almost a business vitamin there and we could translate that into business, like deal with the concern or the person who needs you in front of you. And my brother used to tell me, in the world of social media, be where your feet are. And stop, worrying about what the post or what the tweet's going to be, at the end of today, but be present with the people or the problem or the conversation or the child. Be where your feet are today. Yeah.
It, more and more, the older that I get, I'm feeling that more and more. We brought Josie Love home, and then several years later, we were in Honduras working, and we ended up bringing our daughter home. Her name is Tuta, but she was 18. So that was a totally different situation and journey. And, but it also the same thing of the Lord put someone or something in front of us, and you choose whether to walk away from it or to say yes. And I think if there's anything that I've learned in this, just the adoption process, loved one is later, but is that He's not going to bring you to that point and then leave you. So He has brought just the right people in at the right time to help me with each child. He's brought just the right friends. He's also moved friends out of my life that I thought were friends, but they were actually life suckers rather than life givers.
Well, that's another business vitamin. Surround yourself with life givers, not life suckers.
Right. And so as time has gone on, things have come into my life, but things have fallen out of my life. And I think it's just saying that first yes and then seeing what God does with it. And then you wake up one day and go, wow, how did all this happen? Right. But I am exhausted, but in the best, most joyful, amazing way that you could ever be. So.
And I think when you think about, Suzanne, what you're really saying is prioritize the moment. Mm-hmm. And I sort of say if there's 10 priorities, there aren't any, and that sort of circles the drain quickly, because no matter if you do one thing well and you're focused on the 9 you either didn't do or didn't do as well, those are priorities to me that are life suckers, right? So it all becomes fulfillment within that scope of the mission, and whether that's, a child, whether that's a task, whether that's a conversation. And it's very difficult to shed people, priorities, without feeling as if you're doing something wrong. And I think that's a constant, to me, battle for women. With more priorities of a husband, of children, of mission, of the Lord. The Lord needs his time.
Yeah.
And so it becomes very interesting to hear you say that, because nothing is going to impact your other 7 children if you're taking care of something the 8th one needs.
Right.
But isn't that how we look at it? Is to sort of worry about everything we're not doing, and then we never are fulfilled.
So taking a family to Uganda, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
If you're traveling, leaving the country. Did you take the children with you in your travels, or no, the younger ones?
We do. We've made that a priority early on when our oldest 2 biological children were in elementary school. We took them to Guatemala and worked at a special needs children's home. And it's the first and only vacation that we have ever taken that when we were leaving, our children were crying, not wanting to leave.
Oh.
And it wasn't even a quote unquote vacation. We were going
Right.
to serve. And so Mike and I looked at each other then and said, we have to make this a priority before we go to the beach, before we may go snow skiing or whatever it is wherever you might go. We have to make sure that we make a space in our family's life to serve others. And
I love that too. I love
and
that.
I do think it has made the biggest difference our children have to share beds. They've had to share bedrooms. They've had to share clothes. They've had to share everything. And then when we take them to other places and they see how little other people have, it makes them so thankful that they have what they have, even to be able to share it.
Right.
And so I am a firm believer to try to leave the world a better place than you found it. And what better way to do that than to have 8 children that I'm raising to love other people that are around them and to shoot them kind of out into the world as arrows and to try to make 8 more, in 8 more ways, the world a better place. Do I feel overwhelmed sometimes? Yes. Do I feel defeated? Yes. But we're not guaranteed tomorrow, right? None of us are. And so I get up every morning and say, okay, Lord, what do you have for me today? If I'm going to feel defeated, I'm going to try to rely on you. And I just make it through each day. And if I look at tomorrow, if you ask me next week, what are you doing next week? I could not tell you. Couldn't tell you.
I feel better now.
I can tell you I have a football game to go to at 4:00 this afternoon.
Right.
But I just don't, I try not, I have things on my calendar, but I don't focus on those. I try to stay focused on today.
Right.
And it seems
And I think we're asking the Lord for a chance to wake up in a day. And 100% after that, it's up to us. And sincerely, how we model that and look at that is precisely whether or not it's a day at a time or whether we say that it's a day at a time. And that, I think, is life affirming in ways where I personally don't have to do it all every day. I don't even know what all is, because there's always something to do, right? That will take the time I give it, right, to fill it. So
walk us through. So from your daughter that you adopted, Josie Love, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then where did the love one, then you took it to Mount Everest, to starting your own nonprofit. That's to feeling overwhelmed when you had 4. Now you're at what, 7 or?
Yeah. Yes. Well, here's how that happened. When we went to go get Josie, we knew that she was delayed. developmentally, but we did not know that she was sick. So when we arrived in Uganda, it was only Mike and I, because we went to bring her home because we had our paperwork done. And she was sick, 105 temp. She was just kind of laying limp across our legs. We took her to the doctor, and they told us that she tested positive for malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV. And so then, all the flags started going up of, okay, what does that look like? We have 6 other children at home. We bring her home. I think we can get her the medical care that she needs for sure.
Right.
But can we even get her home with our home study?
Right.
So I stayed, pulled her out of the children's home, and was staying with a friend of mine. So I stayed with her to try to get all the medical, as much as we could get done in Uganda. He came home to put addendums under our home study and just to research what does healthcare look like for her once we get her here. We brought her home. Of course, we had Vanderbilt Children's Hospital right here in town, which was such a huge blessing. So we started meeting with infectious disease. And at 3.5, she'd weighed 12 pounds. She did not walk. She did not talk. She didn't do anything. But she just kind of sat in a corner. So we got her home. We got her little eyelids lifted so she could see better. We started giving her medicine for the tuberculosis. They had already started that in Uganda. That was the roadblock to get her into America.
Okay.
We started her own ARVs for the HIV. By 9 months, she was undetectable, healthy, walking around, calling everybody by name. She just turned into this little beam of sunshine, always smiling, laughing. And so then after we got her healthy, I would get in bed at night and I would lay my head on the pillow, and all I could think about were all the other moms that were in Uganda that were holding their little babies with 105 temperature, that maybe they didn't have access to medical care, and they were literally going to hold their babies until they passed away, right? And I just started thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I help? And basically I just got on a plane and went over there and met with some government officials and just said, I need to try to set up a community-based organization so we can help these women in this area. And I had a few friends that I had met from when I had traveled to Uganda, and I hired those people to be my liaisons. And I just kind of walked through the door, and the Lord just continued to open up the doors. And as he opened them, I would continue to walk. And I mean, now I have a staff of 65 Ugandans that we have 5 or 6 social workers, 4 pediatricians, 3 nurses, 4 nutritionists.
Okay, Suzanne, you make this sound like you just decided to get up and go to the grocery store.
No, I know.
I mean, you don't just wake up and fly to Uganda.
No, I don't know how it happened. Other than that, God he just did it. I said yes, and he did it.
It happened a day at a time.
Right.
Well, there's just a lovely, enchanting fierceness in you. And this is a good, do not get in the way of a mom on a mission.
That's true. That's true.
That you fly there. So you made a handful of friends, but to really knock on the doors of government officials in Uganda, I can't think that's, an easy task. But so you weren't dissuaded? Did you feel like this is like people are going to think I'm crazy, this is too big for me? Or were you just, this is where the Lord's leading, one day at a time, I'm going to do it?
Well, I was already labeled as crazy because I have 8 kids. So that kind of went out the door. I think every time I would go there and see other little children's faces, I would see Josie Love.
Yeah.
And I truly would see her face, and I just thought, am I just going to leave them? I mean, right? I mean, I've seen now. I know different. So I'm just going to live in America, in Brentwood, Tennessee, in one of the wealthiest counties in all of America, and just sit over here and act like that I don't know or that I have not experienced it. And I just couldn't do it.
Good for you.
And so is it, and the underlying thing, Suzanne, because I think patience, right? You didn't really necessarily know what you were building. You just knew you needed to help. Mm-hmm. So is it, and that's the very definition of faith, right? To walk and not necessarily know what you're walking toward, or if in fact there is even an end goal. And what are the keys to that patience day in and day out to be able just to continue walking almost blindly, right? There's not, again, an end in sight.
So it has been difficult. I have been lied to. I have been cheated from. I've been stolen from. In the whole process, even like having children is difficult. But what?
Amen.
If there's anything that I've learned is that I do not have what it takes within my human self to be a great mom. I do not, or a great wife. I just don't. I mean, I am flawed and sinful and all the yucks, right? But if I rely on God, He gives me exactly what I need for each day. He also brings exactly the right people to walk alongside me in my journeys. Like, I could not be the mom that I am if I did not have my wonderful husband to be the husband and father that he is. I couldn't have ever started Love One if I didn't have that handful of friends that said, hey, I'll come along and do it with you. And I truly believe that God gave me those friends. They're gifts. Same thing as it's grown. I could not be running the nonprofit that we're running in Uganda right now if I did not have our director. Her name's Jennifer, and she is fantastic. And I feel like that God said to me, Suzanne, because you are willing to step out in faith and do something that I've asked you to do, I'm going to give you just the right people to do it alongside you so that you're not lonely in it. And so I have Jennifer, who I talk to every day. I talk to her probably more than I do anybody in America. And we just kind of locked arms and hearts, and we're just doing it together.
So it was just that passion that once you knew what the need and the situation was, you could no longer fly back home and put your head on your pillow and say, too bad.
Yeah. I couldn't sit here and think that babies are dying.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I totally understand that and empathize, but it's a rare woman that's able to take the step in and make it happen. So, I mean, you'll be on our
to
prayer
the
list.
magnitude too, Anne and Suzanne, that it will continue that legacy long after you're on this earth and are walking with the Lord, to me, watching over it.
So just to further educate our friends and I'm gonna call them fans because that's at least our family's fans. So Love One, really, your ministry and mission is to get the critically ill children in Uganda, the best medical care, and then the ultimate goal is to place them back into their homes so the children are healthy and the families can be a family again, or give them enough resources that they can have their children back. Is that correct?
That's right. We are not an adoption agency, and we are not an orphanage. There are babies all in all these communities. We call them, villages all around Uganda. We're in northern Uganda in Gulu. And so in these communities all around the town, there are, there's a lot of thousands of people that have never even left their community. They're just on that acreage where they were born. And we find the babies that are severely malnourished. Typically, they have a secondary infection. So our first stop is the hospital. And we give them the IVs that they need from dehydration, antibiotics, whatever they need. Once they're ready to be discharged from the hospital, they're not necessarily ready to go back out into a community where there's no running water or electricity. So the next stop is the Love One Center. And that's where we say, okay, here's this child. We do the assessment on them medically, nutritionally, just emotionally. We have a spiritual director also that shares the love of Jesus with the family. We have the nutritionists that educate. We bring the families in. We educate the moms, the grandmas, whoever. How do your child get this way? How do we prevent it from happening again? They do a nutritional based meal for that particular child, and then we keep them there until we get them healthy. Then the whole time their parents are coming in and we are training them. Then when they get ready to where they're healthy enough to go back home, we resettle them back home. Samuel Francis, he's our spiritual director, goes with us. We share the love of Jesus with the entire community. We explain to them that Love One is faith-based, and it's because the love of Jesus that we are even in Gulu and doing what we're doing. We send them home with a new mattress, mosquito nets, about a month's worth of food, kind of jumpstart them so the families can understand exactly what they need to continue to eat. And then our social workers do follow-up checkups just to make sure that they're continuing to stay healthy after we resettle them.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
Like, I'm feeling quite unaccomplished. That's just, absolutely amazing. And I know do you want to talk for a minute or two about your ambassador program? I'm sure a lot of people in Brentwood and all around the country are saying, how can we be a part of that? So share a little bit about that program, if you would.
Okay. So our ambassador program, we just started it 2 years ago. Actually, this is our third year, I believe. And we kept having people email us saying, how can we help? What can we do to be a part of it? And we can't load everybody up and take them to Uganda.
Right.
And so we started this program so that it's basically just people that we have Zoom calls once a month. I give detailed stories of children that are at the center that we don't really show on our socials. If you look at our Instagram, it's all the healthy children because we don't feel like that we can show the children when we first bring them in. And they fundraise for us. They talk about us. We do a retreat where we all get together once a year at a particular place. We started out just in Nashville as a pilot program thinking, let's do 25.
Right.
Let's 25, 30 people. Let's see what it would look like.
How many did you get?
Now we're up to almost 300. So we started in Nashville. Then we opened it up the next year and we went to 150. Wow. And now we're up to 300. So it's growing and it's people, it's all over the nation. We even have a couple that are out of the country.
So cool.
To where they're able to fundraise and give back and market, if you will, everything that's going on at Love One so that more people know about it. And they really are making a significant difference financially, even in being able to care for these sweet babies.
So what would be your advice to younger women out there, where should they look to plug in their communities? How do they balance all this? So maybe it's a young mom. What any insights for them, of how they could shift some of their thinking and look beyond their feet, if you would, to maybe meet some needs around them?
I met Bob Goff is one of my good friends. I don't know if y'all know him, but he sat me down not too long ago. And I think everybody should do this. He said, Suzanne, you need to make 3 lists. One list of all the things that are absolutes that you want to do with the rest of your life.
Right.
Second list, the absolutes of everything you do not want to spend one more moment of your life on.
That might be a big list.
And then the middle list is there's probably going to be some things that, I really don't want to hang out with that particular person, but she's a mom to somebody on my child's football team or whatever. There's some things like that you have to do, but you wouldn't necessarily choose to do. But in time, move them things in the middle list either to the positives, yes, or the negatives, I don't want to. And when I made that list, I actually, the things I know that I wanted to do, I actually only have about 5 things or 6 things left on it. And it's basically, I want to grow closer to the Lord, and I want to lead as many people to Jesus as I can while I'm still alive. I want to get closer to my husband and travel and just play and have fun with him. I want to spend time with my family, travel, spend time with my family. And I want to save as many babies in Uganda as I can. I mean, I have a couple of others, but it's pretty slim. Well, when I wake up in the morning, and those are the top, and spend time with life-giving friends. That's another thing on that list.
That's a good business vitamin there too.
So if you put that to business also, and you have that list of things, it's pretty easy what you're going to focus on and what you're not. And you just stay in that lane. And it's amazing how when you start weeding out all the things that make you feel like you're suffocating, all of a sudden your nose comes kind of above the water and you can breathe a lot easier. But you have to stay focused on that list in that lane.
Simple, not easy.
I love the
but
life-giving,
extraordinary. Yeah.
Life-giving friends. And I would just say you could stretch out to life-giving relationships. So if they're in the office, out of the office, in the community, your friends in the community, because I think your friends really, positivity is contagious. A dream is contagious. Your passion. So where can we find you? Where can we find out, how to support you? If that's a like, a follow, a share, a website, what's the best way we can learn more about you?
Well, our website is loveoneinternational.org. Instagram, I think most of our social handles are loveoneint.
Okay.
And I think, on Facebook, we're Love One International. I don't think we have a Twitter. I've tried to remove myself from all the day-to-day, all those things. We may have a Twitter.
We'll find out. We'll post it if you do.
Great.
So what are the ages of your children now?
28, 26, 23, 20, about to be 21, 18, 16, 16, and 14.
Oh,
wow.
Now everybody's in high school and above.
Well, I don't know, maybe that gave you a little breathing room. But what a great lesson, Suzanne, that in the beginning, say, 18 years ago, your cup felt so full and overwhelming. And the more you followed the Lord and the more you gave, the more capacity you had. And look, I can't help but be so impressed and inspired by your impact, not only on those around you, I'm sure, but in Uganda and those communities. And God bless those moms and babies that hear of you and can access all your resources.
Thank you.
So we are pleased to know you and to just hear your story, and we can't wait to share it with the people that follow Grit Gravitas.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Suzanne. God bless.
Yes, have a high gear day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.